Hi everyone, I just thought I'd do a really quick video. So at the moment, Justice Reyes is taken some leave. He's adjourned the matters so that he can make a decision. 2:15 is when he's coming back. However, I'll be in class, so I don't know how much of it I can get. There was lots and lots of arguments. So the Defamation Act changed. New laws came in on the 1st of July. And so the first part of the arguments was over whether the new law could be implemented. It seems to be that Bruz can only get damages up until the 1st of July if Shanks and Google are found to be liable because of the way that they've pled. So Google has used legislation from July 1. Shanks has used a mixture of the old legislation and the new legislation, or new acts. And so there was a lot of to and froing about this. And it comes down to, serious harm. But because Bruz put the case in on the 27th of May, it would seem under the new law that if Bruz wants to have compensation from the 1st of July, he actually has to ask for, he has to put in some new documentation. So this went on backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. There was lots of arguments over it, over the old and the new legislation. And it all came down to cause of action. Now, Google was accused by Bruz's lawyer of having multiple defences depending on the day. And there's a limitation as well, a limitation which comes down to the first act of publication in 2020. So Bruz could only get compensation from the date that it was first published until the 1st of July, because under the assumption of the 1st of July, because the rules have changed, Shanks may not, he actually has a stronger defence. Then there was some arguments over particulars in the defence, and so Shanks has got until the 3rd of September to fix those up, and then Bruz will respond to those. So then we got on to the jury trial, and all of the three parties actually all used the same authorities for their arguments, but their interpretations were different. So Dr. Collins went first because it was Shanks's application, and the judge, Justice Reyes, indicated the complexity in a jury trial, and Dr. Collins indicated that it's a lot more simpler than what than what you think it would be. One of the issues that for a jury trial was that you would have people from varying walks of life. You're not going to have people that are in Shanks' demographic necessarily. You're going to have people from all walks of life. And so if we get to a definition of a corrupt con man, if you have wide-ranging people of varying ages, those definitions could vary depending on where they sit in that spectrum, and they can really nut out what the definition of corrupt con man is. It was very interesting. What's very interesting is, so there was about COVID came up, because Bruz is against a jury trial due to COVID reasons. Now, I was really, really surprised that Bruz would use COVID as a defence, considering the New South Wales government is trying to open up for business. Why would Bruz not be keen on a jury trial and use COVID for an excuse? That is the question, but we'll get to that later. So the other thing that Dr. Collins stated was that they've sought leave to appeal Justice Reyes' previous decision on parliamentary privilege. And so by the time the trial can't go on until that matter has been sorted out, the appeal's been sorted out, because then that changes the defence, etc., etc., etc. So the argument from Shanks' side is that by the time that we actually get through and we do the appeal, we're looking into 2022, and National Cabinet has said we start opening up at 80%. New South Wales is bragging about the fact that, you know, they're halfway there and they're nearly there and they're ready to open up and schools are going back in October and all that sort of stuff. So by 2022, the assumption is that everything will be fine. So it's not going to get to court this year. The other argument is that Bruz may not get a fair hearing at a jury trial. And to that, Dr. Collins said, well, actually, you'll have different people, walks of life. Google has used qualified privilege and again has gone on and talked about the variety of jurors, the variety of ages. They didn't really, they essentially backed up what Dr. Collins said. Sukrithantsu for Bruz, you relied on a affidavit supplied by her instructing attorney dated the 26th of August, Paul Sylvans. It is not a criminal matter. There has not been jury trials for defamation cases in Australia for a number of years. Now, she went on a big thing about Shanks and his lawyers have conducted a smear campaign against Bruz and her instructing solicitors and herself. She mentioned about her photo and that is being used to roll up opposition against Bruz and that people don't like him and that is his conduct, that this conduct makes it prejudice for him to have a jury trial. And of course, apparently, Bruz has had numerous messages from people not very happy with him, with the outcome of this case. And of course, that's all Shanks' fault. Nothing to do with him, but that's all Shanks' fault. So she went on about that for the moment. Then she went and talked about inconsistent defences. Google's going to plead contextual truth, while for some of it, Shanks is pleading honest opinion. Will the jury need to have, make two decisions? The other big point that she made, which was really, really, again, funny, was that Shanks is crowdfunded. He's raised over $1 million, so he doesn't care how much this is going to cost. And Bruz is private citizen, well, he's not a private citizen, but he's on his own and he's having to bear the costs of litigation himself. So is that now an admission that public funds are not being given to Bruz to pay for legal? I don't know. That's how I've interpreted that. He's not getting, which I don't think he should. I think if he brings the action, he should have to pay for it. And the other point was that Google has unlimited money. So for the COVID issues, so this is Bruz's lawyer, the figures are going up in New South Wales and down. The 70 to 80% vaccination rates are not relevant. Remember, and this is really interesting because this is not what Bruz is saying when he's behind the platform in the New South Wales press conferences. That young children can't be vaccinated. People shouldn't have to leave the house and put their small children at risk. Because they can't get vaccinated and they're at a high risk of getting the virus. Yeah. And yet schools are opening in New South Wales in October. So I don't know whether this is, she kept saying we. So I don't know whether it's like that's her opinion or whether that's Bruz's opinion. I just want to stipulate that. I don't know whether this is Bruz's instructions or whether this is her instructions. However, there's questions to be asked when your barrister is actually saying the complete opposite to what you're saying every day in Parliament. Then she's talking about a waste of money. Mr. Shanks and Google have unlimited money. Collins then finished up because it was his application. Google and Collins got to sum up. He said in a jury trial there would actually be less time because they spent so much time arguing over semantics of whether the old defamation law or the new defamation law should be used. And he said what would happen is it would be a lot more to the point They wouldn't spend so much time arguing over semantics. Now, Google was talking about the jury pool. Sorry. Yeah, I go and get semantics. Now, Google got into this this Shanks's conduct. And they're saying that the jury pool, they call it jury pool, will attract a wide range of audience. Again, you know, that you're going to have everybody, you know, from the elderly to the young, where they've said most of Shanks's audience are young males. And to the fact about Bruz getting lots of comments in his Twitter and emails, is that when you have public figures, you do attract interest. That this matter has attracted a lot of public interest, that people are watching, people are following, and people of the public are making up their own minds. So when you've got a politician and you've got a public figure, you are going to get lots of media attention. You are going to get a lot of attention, and that's got nothing to do with the Shanks's videos. So people can follow the case and form their own opinions. That His Honour would only need to direct the question, you know, would only have to ask a series of questions for both Google and Shanks, except for damages. Damages is the one where we get complicated. Now, there was an allegation about racism, and Google had said that it had there's community standards, and there's what is tolerable. Sometimes you can get away with stuff if it's as part of a skit or a comedic, or if it's satire. That's what's tolerable. And so they're arguing that under the community standards, that the community has tolerated what Shanks has said. But in 12 months' time, they may not tolerate it. So that's essentially what the go is. So the court is back at 2:15 for Justice Rare's findings. So this is about a jury trial today. We're going to find out about everything else later on, and I guess new dates will be set and everything. But that's where we stand at the moment, and I'll have another update for you later. Thanks for joining me.